friends, welcome back to the Messed Up Movies Podcast, a podcast celebrating the outrageous, the unhinged, the insane, the off-kilter, and all-around kind of messed up fun you can't take your eyes off of. I'm your host, Griffey. What's up for this new movie Monday? Joined by friend, producer, co-host, Heath Benfield. Welcome back.
Hey, hey.
We are here to talk about a brand new horror movie just hitting theaters, Presence. So this is the new Steven Soderbergh movie. I've got all the info pulled up. You guys have probably seen the trailers. So this is essentially a haunted house story that is billed as a haunted house with a twist. The kind of twist that will scare the socks off of you, right? That's always a red flag in a trailer when they're like the scariest movie of the year. A haunted house gimmick that will rewrite how we make all haunted house movies. All right, we mentioned Steven Soderbergh. I know Heath worships at the altar of Soderbergh. He is a cinephile's hero, right? Every cinephile loves Steven Soderbergh. Written by David Koepp, starring Lucy Liu, Julia Fox, Chris Sullivan. Let's get to this. This movie, all right, spoilers first off. Spoilers.
I mean, we almost have to immediately dive into spoilers.
Yeah.
Maybe not immediately.
Yeah,
but
we can't do this without spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, you can feel free to listen, but we're going to spoil the shit out of it starting right now. If you're still here, this is your fault. Heath, I'd like to just start by taking your temperature. What did you make of Presence?
I've had, what's it been, about 24 hours now to let it simmer, let it soak in. I got to be honest, I did not like it.
Yes, this is what I felt. It's one of those movies that I appreciate as a film experiment. It was well crafted at a technical level. I mean, again, I think that the gimmick of us floating with the ghost, I thought was interesting. I thought it was novel. I thought the movement of the ghost camera the camera always was well placed, even if I was a ghost.
Too well placed, I would say.
Yes, that's the thing. There's no messiness to this ghost, so it kind of loses the gimmick throughout. Outside of that, I do think the screenplay for this movie is egregiously bad. Just to put it simply, the twist at the end of the movie is not worth the rub.
It's quite on the nose.
Yes, and it's one of these films where we're a ghost in this house. A family's moving in. We're following this family. They start giving intrigue, right? The parents have a line where Lucy Liu's seemingly committing crime. She's a power lady, getting her son in the nice district, whatever. She's doing crimes. Her husband's like, should I stay or move out? I got to protect her. You're like, all right, that's the movie we're doing. Niche. What we're really doing is a young daughter whose friend has died from a fentanyl overdose, right? She's really sad and seems to be able to see the ghost almost immediately in the house, right? And then a brother who's just there to be a cock, wink.
Well, she doesn't see the ghost. She senses the presence.
Right, and it's one of those, they let us know it's different because she will look right down the barrel of the camera. So if we are the ghost looking through the ghost eye, she is looking right the fuck at us.
Yeah.
So if she's not psychic and can't see it, she knows something is happening. That's never addressed as to really why, right? They say at one point that but her trauma has busted open a door where she can experience things that most of us keep closed off to. Okay, the problem with this movie, if I have a big problem, it's kind of twofold, right? The gimmick wears very thin in the middle. This is a movie that I think comes in at it's an hour and 25 with credits. This movie feels long.
I would have sworn on my life. I would have put money down on the Buffalo Bills finally winning their finally succeeding in their fifth try for a Super Bowl, which won't happen. If you were to ask me if this movie was 2 hours long, I would have said yes.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it feels so fucking long. And that gets to the other problem. You're doing a ghost haunted house gimmick, right? It's unfair to blame the movie for the horrible marketing device that every horror movie should stop. Stop billing every horror movie as the scariest movie in years. The scariest movie since Hereditary or X. Don't ever do... I have never seen a trailer that had that in it, and the movie lived up to what I wanted it to be after seeing that. Now every time I see it, I know it's probably going to be lackluster. I am a little sad because it feels like we're in this. January's always been the graveyard for film releasing, right? I felt like with horror movies, right, we were on the verge of, all right, they're putting some good stuff. I think Megan was a January release. They're trying. We're getting some better stuff. Between this and Wolfman, I was like, we're kind of back to that. Okay, now I see why you're landing here. Let's just put it this way. This gimmick, while I appreciate it as a guy who's trying to make movies, who loves movies, who watches a ton of movies, anything that feels interesting and new, I appreciate. I find it hard to believe this movie will be a crowd pleaser.
No. I mean, it's a Steven Soderbergh experiment. This is kind of what he does, right? He goes for these verite experiments. I mean, we saw it with Bubble, for one, to start off. No one saw that. But, I mean, interesting film. And he's always somewhat interesting. He's making interesting choices. He works with a very low budget. And I think Neon probably saw a chance after Sundance to scoop this up and put it into their stable of, I mean, how many Neon horror film trailers did we see preceding this movie?
I mean, I feel like Neon is like taking the crown of like, they have the most exciting movies to me in the horror genre right now.
Right. But the thing with this movie is it's not a horror movie. And they decided to move forward and market it as such. And that's just not what it is. So automatically, you are setting up the filmmaker, I think, for failure because people are coming in with the expectation of a thriller. And it's not. It's a total domestic drama.
Well, I wondered if it was me being unfair to the movie. I went back and watched the trailer again because I was like, did I bring unfair baggage to this? I kind of knew because it's Soderbergh, it wasn't going to be like a bite your nails horror movie. I thought it'd be more of a tongue-in-cheek fun horror movie, which it also is not. I was not wrong. The trailer is definitely setting the audience up to lose this battle. This is a movie made only for film school nerds. Like, if you do not have a vested interest, if you're not a critic, a blogger, a writer, a podcaster, a guy who makes movies, a guy who writes scripts, if you're not somehow involved in the craft of making films, I can't imagine what is in this movie for you, right? The gimmick, again, the opening I thought was pretty novel. The first minute of like that kind of fisheye around the edges, moving around the house, I was like, okay, this is interesting, right? I'm getting this, what is a spirit who's bound to a house, right? What does that yearning look like? The kind of excitement of the camera as a new family moves in that it can make contact with. Okay.
Well, and
I was kind of into it.
Yeah, and it got me thinking like, oh, so we're going to be entirely in the ghost's perspective through this whole film. And, there's a movie that I'm a little involved with because I'm friends with the filmmaker. And he made a movie from the point of view of a serial killer. And the serial killer wears a GoPro throughout. And what's so cool about that movie is that you start to pick up on the thought patterns of the character just from the actions. You never hear anything that the character never speaks. He merely observes. But when you are seeing through his point of view, you start to figure out like, okay, I'm seeing how he's thinking things through and how he's changing his strategies based off of whatever is happening. And then, so that's kind of a cool experiment, right? And I was sort of expecting the same out of this. And I guess you get a little bit of that, but I wouldn't say this ghost is very thoughtful. I mean, we do get that one scene where the medium...
It's very convenient.
Yes. I mean, there is the one scene where they try to explain away a lot of stuff with the medium where the ghost isn't sure where it's at. It's confused. It doesn't even know what time it might be in. And immediately I know you were tipped off and perked up there because...
I will say this. I was fucking shocked. I figured this whole thing out so fucking fast. Again, spoiler alert, but when they started talking about the ghost of the friend, I was like, this feels not enough. Like, we're just not doing enough. Okay, who's it going to be?
Wait, well, no, did we set that up?
We mentioned that the story is she thinks it's her friend because the spirit's very drawn to the daughter, right? Who's experienced this trauma and is a little more open to it, right? I thought for certain at the start, I was like, all right, so it's got to be one of them. It's probably Lucy Liu. because she's saying how she's really close with the son, but not the daughter. Okay,
so you immediately picked up that it was one of the family members that was going to end up being the ghost.
I knew immediately because, again, it's not acting like a ghost would, right? Like, there's just not this, like, I'm going to play around with it. And the scene when we first see it, like, interact with the world where it just picks her stuff up and nicely puts it together, I was like, all right, that feels like mom. Like, hey, I didn't help you in life. I was like, all right, something fucked up's happening. But I didn't get the time travel thing yet. So I was like, it's going to be someone we're seeing in this movie. I just don't know who. And then the little friend comes in, right? The little Dahmer wannabe guy. And he's like, your brother's got a mean streak, bro. And I go, that's it. That's it right there. And I kind of leaned over and said to you, I was like, I bet it's him. And then the movie happened again, and you're like, oh, my God, it is him. I was like, I can't fucking believe it. And I even leaned over you. I said, if I'm right, we got to go to the casino after this, because that's insane if that's what this movie is.
Yeah.
Lo and fucking behold.
You pegged it.
It is the brother the whole time, right? It's the spirit of the brother. We'll get to, like, unpacking more of that, but it is such an... This is the thing. This is the problem with the gimmick. If you're going to put me in the eyes of the ghost, I have to also be in the head and heart of the ghost. Even fucking confused, this movie's telling me that this ghost is not malicious towards this family.
Right. So automatically...
This is a different kind of story.
Yeah.
Right?
The threat is reduced, yeah.
Yes. So I'm not scared anymore in any way, shape, or form. But I am intrigued as to why it is bonded to these people, right? Here's a scene that I think poses a big problem for this movie. This is where this movie somewhat fails. Besides just, like, following conversations that you wouldn't care about, we need to know about. But, like, why would the spirit care? Here's the scene, right? So the guy, he's sitting in the ghost always goes back to the closet, which I'm guessing is a very thin allegory by the end of the movie. But he's in the closet, and he's watching his sister just bang the shit out of the friend, right? Okay. We still don't know who the ghost is. We're just like, oh, the ghost is watching and is going to get mad because he might be in love with this girl. Maybe that's where danger comes.
No, wait. In the Ghost Brothers' defense, the banging scene was out of focus.
It was out of focus. Yeah, it's almost like, avert your eyes, but no. You know what I mean? It's bizarre, right? Neither here nor there. The ghost goes over to the bed, right? They're cleaning up. You know, they're going to take showers, whatever. The teenage guy, the blonde guy, after he's already banged the sister, decides I'm going to drug her drink, right?
Yeah.
Fucking wild. Like, that's one of those is a movie, you're like, why is he doing it after? Okay. He's a bad guy. Sure, whatever. I'm following with you. The ghost knocks the drink over to protect the sister.
Yeah.
Sure. That makes perfect sense. This is the movie I'm watching. I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. I know this guy's the bad guy. I'm still somewhat with the movie. The problem with things like this is when you make these decisions and you don't think it through all the way. Why would the spirit in that moment know? It's bonded to these people. It somewhat cares. It wants to protect her. When it's later watching himself, even if the spirit doesn't know, watching himself get drugged doesn't stop it.
Oh, there's so many holes.
Goes up to the room and watches the sister get drugged. Doesn't fucking stop it. Right? We know it can interact with the physical world. Doesn't fucking just grab the kid and mangle him.
Right.
Has to go down and wake himself up because now it's like a paradox of time travel they've added for. This is the problem. If you've shown me the ghost is defending them by knocking over the drink can't be a threat the rest of the movie.
And you've already established.
Can't be orange juice twice because the ghost would have just stopped it. What the fuck are you doing? It doesn't make any sense.
You've already established that the ghost can interact with the physical world. I mean, it literally picks up books, places them.
The ghost creates a mini earthquake in the brother's room. That I'll tell you, that's the scene I actually knew because it was hearing itself be a dick. And the dad had a line that I immediately was like, because he goes, there's a good man inside of you somewhere. I hope I get to see him. And I was like, boom, that's it. I knew it.
There were so many instances where the dad was lecturing the brother for not sticking up for the sister. Mm-hmm. You could be more supportive. You could be a better big brother. And you know, you're wondering how that's going to add up to something. And so you start to figure out the movie pretty quickly. Now, it's such a wild idea to me that, especially after that drink scene, that the ghost ends up being him because you have this like time paradox thing. I mean, it really doesn't make one lick of sense how that works because how did the ghost get there in the first place? Like,
yeah, it's also like, what if their offer got rejected? What if that realtor who's 100% a liar had shown it to another family and they just bought that? Like, that's one of those things where it's like you're trying to be clever. You read somewhere that ghosts can go back in time. It's just, that's what I think the problem with this movie is. When you make a kind of sanitized thought experiment, you start adding things that sound cool on paper, like the ghost doesn't even know when it is.
Right.
And to me, I was like, if that idea is not incredibly fucking important to the movie, and I guess at a base level, you could say it is because that's the ghost we followed. If that ghost had been anyone else in the movie, that movie's not any percent worse or better. Mm-hmm. Maybe it could have been better. Like, this is about as mild and boring an ending.
So
as we could
let's explain what happened. So the brother has a friend. He's trying. Mm-hmm. He's new to the school. He's trying. He's to
like the cool kid. He's gonna help like boost his cred. Yeah.
The coolest kid in school is inexplicably some kind of like incel style. He's not even an incel. He's laying pipe. And
he's just hot and has abs and laying pipe and he's rich, but he's like, I'm so fucking because he says that he has this line that's unbearable where he's like, have you read that yet? When he's asking her about death, and he's just like, oh, you'll read that in the junior year. I'd like to hurt myself. I'm so sad. And I was like, this is a long way to go to finger. I was like, I guess I was that kid at one point. Like, I would have also pretended to be an intellectual, but like,
yeah. I mean, he's going to have his whole Holden Caulfield act. I mean, we all knew guys like that.
I caught Catcher in the Rye, and it worked. It's like, oh, no.
But to take it so far, it just, I didn't buy the fact that a kid like this would be a full-blown serial killer, and that was his whole MO, and be so kind of reckless about it, and having not gotten caught yet. And so his whole thing is he's going to seduce the sister to get to the point where he can do his ritual, where he drugs her, she's passed out, and then he slowly suffocates her with like a cellophane.
But because they have fentanyl in their system, they blame that. Which I was like, I'm pretty sure autopsies would reveal that it's a different kind of death when you suffocate versus overdose, right? I was like, I don't want to get too sciencey in this. The movie clearly doesn't want to either. But I was like, I'm pretty sure from other true crime shit I've listened to, that's not reasonable. Also, it is kind of like, we've seen her texting him, right? He's been in their home. Like, other parents weren't like, yeah, this blonde kid who just gave me bad vibes had been hanging around.
And she was best friends with the other girl that he killed. She would never have known anything about him.
Acquaintances with the other, right? And that's what I mean. Like, there was no text records. They hadn't just become friends on social media like 2 weeks before. It's fucking, like, even if you look at the final caper, he comes over and drugs the brother who's passed out, goes upstairs to kill the sister, right? Let's say there's no ghost and this works. So then he has to go downstairs and drug himself, and they both pretend like there's no way he's getting away with this. He either has to kill the brother or the brother's going to say he did it. It's impossible.
There had to be a timeline where he did get away with it. Or how does this work? It didn't make any sense because the ghost is the reason that this whole scheme is thwarted. So what happens is the ghost goes downstairs, earthquake shakes and the lights blink, and the drugged brother, so the ghost is waking himself up, the live version of himself up, and the brother fights his way upstairs and stops, like goes to protect his sister, grabs he
Goldbergs this dude out the
Goldbergs
him
out the window. Yeah, and a kind of a cool shot. That was well done, but
it's an impeccably shot movie. That's the best thing you can say about impeccably shot.
So they end up in the driveway,
the window that could not be opened. Yeah,
right, and then we're if you hadn't figured it out by that point, the brother is the ghost. And he protected and saved the sister. But how did he ever become the ghost if there wasn't a ghost there to wake him up?
See, as a trained Doctor Who fan, there's a lot of these where there's a fixed point in time when things can change before or after, but one thing always has to happen. He always has to be the one that dies. So in another timeline, the guy could have gone downstairs and killed him as well. He's going back to just save the sister. Or, you know, he always saves the sister but must die in the process. The problem with this is he spends the whole movie seemingly hating his sister. Like, there's never one moment in the movie where it seems like they care at all. The dad's kind of like, hey, man, fix it now, because I didn't talk to my sister for 6 years. He seems to be like, that'd be dope, right? Like, I guess if totally the ghost is always in the closet, maybe it's like a jilted lover thing. Yeah. Maybe it's just a rage because he has a mean streak. Maybe he did love his sister and it's just teenage bullshit.
Well, he totally resents her. He dresses her down at the dinner table one night.
Yeah, I feel like if my brother's friend would have died, I wouldn't have been like, God, what a loser. Like, what? This is the biggest problem of the movie, right? The younger actors in this movie do not carry the movie the way the film asked them to. And I'm not even fully blaming the actors. Yeah. The script is not giving them a lot to work with. These kids are just not getting the material they need. Because this is the thing. When Lucy Liu and, what's his name? Chris Sullivan, right? The actor who played the dad were fucking great. When they were on the screen, it was working. There's a story. Like, I get their dynamic. And it's not even, like, you know, probably they're better actors. But at least there was something to latch on to. The teenage storyline is lame. And for the movie to veer this way it just didn't work.
So, David Koepp, the writer, I feel like he was pulling a lot from his bag of tricks from other movies, and the one that comes to mind the most is Stir of Echoes.
Yeah, he's like, Stir of Echoes, God damn it, everyone should have loved that instead of Sixth Sense.
Right, and he sort of does the same thing where the ghost is not malevolent. The ghost is trying to fix an ill that occurred, and from some sort of, again, violent teenage drama. And this time, instead of sticking with, you know, the adults, the story focuses on these kids. And it just sort of feels, I don't know, maybe this works for a teenage audience, but
we were in the theater with 4 teenagers who were getting fucking ripped up above us. They were not into this at all.
No, because
let's just pause here, though, on the David Koepp of it. It is insane how bad this script is when you start looking at his list, right? A movie I love, 1990s Dark Angel, also called I Come in Peace, Dolph Lundgren, Aliens, Heroin, great. Toy Soldiers, Death Becomes Her, Jurassic Park, Carlito's Way, The Shadow, if you're into that, The First Mission Impossible, Snake Eyes, Stir of Echoes, Panic Room, Spider-Man, Secret Window, War of the Worlds, the Spielberg one.
Did you see
Ghost?
Kimmy?
I mean, this is just like bam, bam, bam. I mean, these are all big fucking movies, right? The Mummy with Tom Cruise, not great, but still, like, this guy has written big, major level movies for major fucking directors.
Oh, he's one of the best screenwriters working today.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be, like, in the upper echelon of, like, I bet if you did his box office, I bet he's one of the highest.
Oh, definitely.
His movies have earned the most in cinema history. How he so dramatically misjudged this, I find kind of sad, right? Because it feels like a guy like that, if you're making this movie, it's a passion thing. Like, I just want to tell this story and this novel idea. And oh my God, Soderbergh's the exact right guy to do this kind of experimental passion project.
And they had a great collaboration when they did Kimmy, too. Yeah. And that's sort of an interior style movie where she's an agoraphobe during COVID. That's a great flick. But I don't know. I don't know if I totally lay this at the feet of Koepp. I cannot really forgive him for the being too clever about the time traveling ghost. Yeah. I guess, I mean, you were way ahead of it, but I don't know that that's part of the problem of the script is he doles it out a bit too obviously, and there's not enough else going on that you're just kind of grasping for anything. And all you have is the dialogue
with like the pranks and the swim team and the friends dead, like the way that is so underbaked, but supposedly the A story, that's what I blame him for. If that's the story that's important, if that's the story that creates the fucking presence that travels through time to come back and be a part of this story that I have to watch it through its eyes, that cannot be this fucking weak.
Right.
The dialogue between these teenagers cannot be so meandering and bland. Like, it's just not enough. Again, because every time Lucy Liu and Chris Sullivan are doing a bit, it feels like real characters with real stakes, and there's like they're holding a family together and a marriage, and there's stuff happening, and the actors, maybe they're elevating their material more than the others. It felt like a movie. When the teenagers are on screen, it's one of those like, oh my God, this is not the same. Like that dinner scene where Tyler tries to yell at her when she like admits the presence, and he's like, come on, bruh. I was just like, oh God. Oh, I was like, what is happening? And again, I don't even want to, because this thing, here's another decision, right? It's just like a weird list of like exhibits. You're like, I don't know that he's guilty, but he's not innocent, right? Like, because the last shot of the movie, in the last scene of the movie, they're moving out of the house for some reason, even though you would think even a child would be like, oh, it's the ghost of our son who came back.
Yeah. Let's hang out with Casper.
This is a classic Casper. Yeah, he's a nice ghost who protects us from bad. Why would you fucking move and leave your son's spirit, the only thing left of him, behind? Right? The movie has all kinds of weird, like, that means there's a God and this, like, weird religious shit we just don't acknowledge, right? The final shot of the movie has more emotion and storytelling than the entire rest of the fucking movie. Lucy Liu in the empty house, who walks up to the silver nitrate mirror and sees her son and breaks down. He came back to see me. And the family holds her. You're like, that is a short film for 2 minutes. Achieves more than anything else in the whole fucking movie. And none of it's predicated on the movie I watched. I could have seen that scene and gotten the whole thing without the movie. But even in the middle of that scene, why is the presence just an unmoving face? Like,
smirking? Yeah.
He's doing like a weird half-ass, like, you caught me
right
Facebook picture. Like, why is that the picture of the kid who's the fucking hero ghost of the movie? It's so bad and such a horrible decision. You're like, even when you're crushing it, there's still things in it that are fucking dragging me down. And again, I didn't not connect with this movie in any way like Wolfman. There were moments in this I was on the ride. But I think this movie, even more than Wolfman, was lost. It was just like The Presence. It was just kind of a meandering force watching shit. And that's tough for a movie. A movie has to have a narrative heading, right? You have to have something you're aiming me at forcefully. And the ghost cheats sometimes and tries to be that. But by the end, it's just like watching a boring family life that ends in a kind of like Lifetime movie bang.
I have to lay most of the blame at Soderbergh's feet, because he's doing this thing where he's like, I'm the guy who loves the 70s movies, and I'm going to bring in the 70s feel and aesthetic. And you feel that in the score. I actually really loved the music.
Yeah.
And it started to mess with me, though, because I'm like, okay, this is kind of wild choice. You're doing this modern movie, but you're throwing in this 70s style score. And it's not like a cool, wild, over-the-top 70s style like horror score, like The Exorcist or something, or Halloween. It's more, I don't know, maybe even like, I would say early 70s style. And it's orchestral. But it has kind of some funky vibes to it. It's a little big, and I'm just sort of like, this feels discordant from what we're doing in the movie and the time and place we're setting this, because it's a movie about teenagers who are on social media and do all the things that modern teenagers basically do. And it's just sort of like, the material doesn't match what the filmmaker seems to care about, and it's all the wrong types of things that 70s movies do. I mean, saying that it felt like a 70s movie, it's the best era in filmmaking ever. That should be a good thing. In this case, I felt
you're
like
to make a movie that replicates an era, that's the one.
Sure, but in this case, it took all of the bad elements that we've left behind from the 70s, like the very stage style performing, and that really does not serve this film well, because if you're going to do this verite stylistic approach where we are seeing everything from the point of view of a floating camera, and you're not going to protect your actors from cuts and edits, and they are doing cinematic choices, but that also gets in the way. I have a rant on that in a minute if you can stand it. But the acting, if you're going to do this verite style, the acting has to be impeccable. And it felt like they maybe had one quick rehearsal. And it just felt like this was a broad stage style play. The pacing was wrong. When people would come in with their lines, it was either too fast and unnatural, or they were trying to make it real and stammer and stutter, and then that felt inauthentic. Yeah. And if you're going to do it in this style, you have to nail that verisimilitude, and it just didn't. It just felt hokey.
Yeah, I feel bad because the biggest victim of this is the blonde kid. His performance is so bad in this movie. And I hate saying that because, again, I think acting is one of those things where so many other people make choices that can make you look bad as an actor, right? Directors can leave you out to hang. There's like that shot when he's finally going dark and he's doing the caveman eyebrows, and I was like, the camera's just like 6 inches too high where I can't see his eyes, and everything in acting is eyes. Like, I gotta see his fucking eyes, and it's just shit like that. And then even at the end, his fucking like half a Joker speech, I was like, oh, like they didn't do him any. That's where some of the devices of cinema, right? Cuts, close-ups, things like that can bail you out, right? When you cut away and you can get an ADR pickup line, like that shit can bail you out and make your performance more full. I hate saying that a young actor didn't do his job or didn't try hard, whatever. They did not do him any favors in this movie. And if he's the fucking bad guy that created this whole fucking ride I'm supposed to be on, brother, there were choices that were made that just didn't work at all.
Right. And the actual cinematic choices, I'll keep the rant short, that the director did make felt totally wrong, because if we're seeing this, everything that we're seeing is through the vision of the ghost. Why is the ghost choosing to frame a shot? Why is he taking the opportunity to show us, the audience, exactly what they think needs to be seen, other than how that person, if you want to call the ghost a person, experiencing or observing that situation would behave?
Well, there's the scene where like Tyler's talking about the prank they pulled with the girl in her dog shirt, and I was like, families don't stand in rooms like that and talk. Like, they're like on the couch with their back all the way to the sister, and the dad's just like by the fireplace, like with a scotch. And I was like, nope. Like, that dad would be sprawled out. He's like a chubby guy like me. The first thing you do when you get home is sprawl, brother. Like, what? Like, people don't stand like that. They don't act like that, right? And that works in a stage play.
Yeah. And the ghost just happens to know which character is the most interesting character to follow in each moment.
Yeah. It's just, again, it's that. See, even that mechanical issue, I can forgive. What I can't forgive is that when I do this whole journey, and again, I think they're so fucking sparse because they're talking about how the ghost is hurt and wounded and confused. I don't see that in the movie, right? By the end of the movie, this is a young kid who's on his way. He's like, I'm conquering this school. I'm achieving my dreams. I'm going to be this like great person. Right? His friend betrays him, drugs him, tries to murder his fucking sister, and forces him into a moment where he, defending his family and his honor, kills this kid and himself.
Yeah.
That ghost should be fucking furious. The fact that mom and dad like just ignore it, the fact that himself previously, even if the ghost doesn't know that's him, laugh about him, the spirit should be manifesting everywhere. This should feel like a ghost that's trying to haunt and terrorize these people like Poltergeist.
Yeah.
To get their attention to the danger that's among them already. the movie's just too fucking passive, and the story is too fucking threadbare to just make this mechanic work. Now, if you imagine watching Poltergeist from the vision of whatever's in the TV,
would have been a great movie.
A fucking plus experiment. That's the avant-garde kind of thing I'm looking for. This story does not manifest. There is nothing to care about with these teenagers. I don't believe she actually just had a friend die, right? They don't ever feel like there's nothing to sink your teeth into, right?
Yeah.
It's not as bad. Like, it's not, again, I feel like this and Wolfman, I have very similar experiences. This one was just like, wow, look at the pristine polish on this. And I gave it some leeway for thought experiment. But also just, like, this one, I guess I give it a little leg up because I did believe the married couple's relationship. I thought they had great interludes, right? Like the scene where he's like, well, I just don't think the answer for us is to do nothing. When she walked to the other room, stone cold, she's like, nothing?
Yeah.
I was like, that's a married person scene. That's
sure,
exactly,
that felt authentic.
That is so different than that scene in Wolfman, right? I was like, that's exactly how married arguments are. I love the choice of them going outside, right? And they're like, we can't go back in the fucking house now. And he's like, what do we do? And then he's just yelling at his side. Like, that felt very real. Like, that's also one of those moments where the movie understood kind of the fun game of the movie.
Definitely. That's where I thought we were getting somewhere.
More of that. We needed either more of the fun, or this had, like, this wants to be a drama, but when it's working, it's either funny or kind of has thriller vibes.
I think,
and it just never really becomes any of those.
I thought the same when they were outside and you were from the ghost perspective. They're looking at each other through the glass of they're out on the deck and the ghost is inside in the kitchen, and mainly the dad is in the foreground while the rest of the family's out on the deck. They're all trying to figure out what to do next. And that was interesting. Okay, the family knows now. They are all in agreement that this is a haunted house. And what do they do about it? The very next scene, they do the most cliched gimmick or trope that you've seen, Poltergeist being the best of them all, where you bring in the medium to tell and explain what's happening and, why the house is haunted.
And it's such a passive choice that, again, no story is happening. There's just a lady telling us what we already know and then, like, sprinkling in some time travel. They're not moving the story. There's no active pursuit. Why is Lucy Liu, who's such a domineering character in this movie, why is she not, like, doing something to fucking fix this?
Yeah.
Why is she in the house? Why are they still going to a fucking work conference? Like, just imagine in your day-to-day life, you saw a fucking spirit shred the room that your favorite prized child lives in. You're not doing life shit until you've sorted that. It doesn't matter if they're like, if your daughter's like, oh, it's my friend. Well, your friend got fucking murdered and is now in my house. That's unsettling. I'm not taking your word for that.
Hey, we have a pack of raccoons that have holed up in our attic or basement. Everything will be fine until we get back from this.
I love Rocket Raccoon. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's like they have rabies. No, it's like what? It's fucking ludicrous. And again, the passiveness when we need the characters to care is just, it's the constant kind of fucking ghostly moan that haunts you the whole fucking movie. It's like, someone do something. The dad going into the room and being like, well, my mom was religious and I feel bad. And now I'm old and I realize I don't know shit. And I believe you. I was like, cool, brother. Fucking do something.
Yeah.
Protect your fucking family. The next scene we see is him out in the driveway like, hey, my wife doesn't like that I paid you. You can't come in no more. And the lady's like, yeah, I have a vision, like something really bad's going to happen with the window. He's like, sorry, my wife doesn't want to do anything about the haunting. Like, what am I watching?
I thought for sure
what is happening?
He was going to arc into his balls finally descending through the movie, because he's the beta parent the whole time. And he's a good guy by all accounts. He's sensitive. Yeah. He takes
and now he's cuckolded by a ghost.
Yeah. Like, he takes interest in his family's or his traumatized daughter's plight, and then he lets his son have it when he gets out of line. But he always backs off and backs down. And you're kind of like, okay, when is this going to turn?
Where
is
this
Craig
going
to
T.
pay
Nelson
off?
moment? Yeah.
Right.
What is
it never does.
And again, this movie to me is just like the unthrilling version of The Lovely Bones. The movie wasn't great. The book was great. But it's the same kind of thing, right? Like a kid dies and they're trying to like let their parents know the guy next door did it, whatever. Really good. So this has that kind of a vibe.
Yes.
But again, that movie knew it was like a murder mystery thriller kind of thing. And again, it's using more cinematic techniques to pay that off. This Ghost meanders. The family meanders, is faced with undeniable evidence that the natural order of the world they believed in is gone. And none of them fucking care. So why the fuck would I care?
I think it would have been more interesting. I could see a film that had more mystery, more suspense, more intrigue if you eliminated the POV ghost vision from the entire setup. If you did this in a traditional way, I get that it is a kind of boring drama, but you could introduce, because we know right off the top that everything that we're seeing is from the ghost's point of view. So we're not anywhere that the ghost isn't. So the ghost can't be mysterious. It can't be potentially threatening. We're always with it. So it could have created some kind of uncertainty when the ghost is gradually popping in and out, revealing itself. And we are more in the shoes and perspective of these characters, this family. I think it could have potentially been more effective.
The problem is the story is so lame. There's nothing else I even want to watch. Like without the gimmick, this movie wouldn't have even made it to theaters. This wouldn't even be a thing that exists.
Yeah.
It has A+ talent and a gimmick. So you can make a fucking trailer that lies to people and get them in the theater.
Which is why it's disappointing.
Honestly, I was thinking about it, I was like, it's just the exact inversion of Paranormal Activity. Where Paranormal Activity is a movie where I'm looking at every inch of every frame. I'm trying to figure out what the spirit wants something. The family is trying to actively battle it. That movie is constant engagement, right? Again, it's much more of a popcorn kind of thing than this. But it felt kind of novel and found footagey, and it was a different take on found footage. It felt like it was a big pop, right? That was a really big movie when it came out. This movie, The Ghost, floats. The story floats. I fucking float. I was fucking shocked that and again, the idea of a ghost of a loved one coming back. And again, my biggest thing I would say with the movie, take the fucking killer thing out. Take the dead friend out. Take the serial killing friend out. What if it's just a guy or a teenage brother who comes back at the end of his life and he's like, where did it go wrong with me and my sister? Do the full drama.
Yeah.
Like putting the touches of making it feel like it's going to turn into something. Horror is one of those genres that you're promising your audience you will be scared, you will be thrilled, you will have fun, right? Those are kind of the things you're there for. You will ponder what you would do in this scenario. I was like, I would do jack shit. Why would I do anything, right? Like, no one in this movie cared. They had a ghost in their house. Why would I? Right?
And I felt like the filmmakers didn't care that much. I mean, it just felt half-baked. Like, oh, here's an interesting idea. Let's whip it together. I mean, Soderbergh has another movie with Fassbender and Cate Blanchett coming out in like a month.
Yeah.
So clearly he was juggling. He was just slipping this one in, and he's done this.
I feel like he was in love with the experiment.
Yeah.
And so whatever it was, he just did it.
Yeah.
But I can't believe anyone was like reading this and was like, holy shit.
Well, the thing is, his production company produced it. Extension 765. So Neon picked it up out of Sundance. I mean, this was totally independent.
Yeah,
I think this was just
Soderbergh.
something.
It's got A-list like credentials. Of course, you picked this up.
Right.
I'm guessing the budget was pretty fucking friendly.
It had to be threadbare. So yeah, I'm sure that
it's a good investment, but it's one of those like
you still have to market it. You still have to spend money on that.
About it, right? Like, what's the...
I mean, will it get 2 million?
Oh, I doubt in the first... And then this is the thing. No one's going to see it once the first reviews come out.
Right.
Like, I think the best case scenario for this is that it makes it onto, like, Hulu. And people just turn it on because it's like, oh, cool, like a found footage ghost story. Oh. Like,
yeah, the watch
when the average audience finds this movie, like when my mom finds this movie, I think this is something more filmmakers should do. My mom sees more movies than anyone on earth. She fucking loves movies in a way that most people can't. Like, she's watched a movie every day for decades and decades and decades. Most days she watches more than one movie, right? When she watches this, I was like, what is going to keep my mom watching this movie? Why would you not turn this movie off if you didn't have to bitch about it on a podcast? Like, why would you have stayed? For me, it became like, well, I got to know how this ends, right? And I just kept having faith that, like, the ending would be so cool and this paradox thing would pay off. And the moment, like, early in the film, when I knew it was Tyler, I was like, it can't be that fucking stupid. It can't be that stupid. And then I watched Tyler acting, and I was like, oh, dear God, no. And by the end, I was just like, oh, what a fucking kick in the dick. But, I mean, when a normal audience that doesn't give a fuck about film experimentation finds this, like those 4 teenagers in the audience with us that were just ripping weed vapes and coughing to death, they were just, like, openly mocking this movie the whole time, just talking out loud. Just like,
which we started to do as well.
Yeah, we did the same thing. We're like, well, fuck, if no one gives a shit about this, what? But again, what is going to keep anyone watching this that doesn't have a vested interest in it?
What do you think they thought they were doing here? I'm sure there was some sort of 70s influence. I mean, you feel that throughout it, at least in the style. And I know that's Soderbergh's main touchstone. Do you think they, though, thought maybe they were trying for, like, Elephant meets Poltergeist?
I will tell you the truth. This feels like one of those horror is blown up over the past couple years.
Yeah.
We can make something cheap.
Yeah.
There's something that makes it feel more like what Soderbergh would want to do rather than just like a real horror movie. Right? He doesn't want to do blood, guts, practical. This has like some filmmaking challenge to it. This felt like it's quick, it's easy, we can cash in on a horror movie, and it's got a fun game. No one on earth will ever convince me that anyone, maybe David Koepp, when he first finished the script, had some love for it. You can't convince me anyone else involved in this entire fucking movie, maybe the cameraman who was pumped to get this on his reel, or someone who's just like, well, if I work with Soderbergh now, I'll get on one of the good ones. You cannot tell me anyone had any love or passion for this movie. I refuse. I mean, this is as cold and lonely a movie as I've ever seen.
Which is sort of his MO. I mean, he does have a distance from the characters, and sometimes the performances can be wooden. But
like his version of like cold characters used to be like, you know, like Erin Brockovich didn't feel like a real person, which is weird because she was a real lady.
Right.
But like, you know, he used to make movies that just felt like they were being the cinema of cool.
I'm thinking of like Unsane, Side Effects. Actually, Unsane, maybe not the best example. Maybe something more like, what was the Haywire with Gina Carino? He often takes these people who aren't trained actors and tosses them into a movie, surrounds them with really talented people. And that's sort of, I think, what he was doing here. He has Lucy Liu and Chris Sullivan. Is that his name?
Yeah.
So we can get these kids.
Magic Mike's Last Dance. You're like, okay, why the fuck is he doing Magic? All right, whatever. Lucky Logan.
Oh, I love Magic Mike.
Like Lucky Logan are like fun, like cool movie characters more than, all right, Contagion is like great, right? The Informant with Damon had that weird, like, who is that supposed to be? The Girlfriend Experience was like that.
I love The Girlfriend Experience.
But see, that's the thing. You like the movies, but they're not like really great humanistic kind of character thing.
That's right.
Even his Solaris movie, you're like, well, that fucking missed the point infinitely, right?
I love that one
was
too.
Good. Ocean's 11 are good. But all these movies I'm looking back, Out of Sight, I fucking love. That's my favorite Soderbergh movie. But you're like, all the movies of his I like, you're like, yeah, I don't like them because of the characters or the performances. I like it because of the swagger of everything put together. And Ocean's 11 can have cartoonish characters when all the actors are that good. Right? This one, it's just... It's cold in an unfun way. There's no cinema of cool in this, which is what he always does for me.
I don't know about that. I think he's always reaching for something that he hasn't done before, but he's always kind of bringing his unique perspective to it. I think stylistically, there is a common thread with a lot of this, and maybe that it is sort of that detachment and it is that 70s influence. But I mean, from a genre perspective, he's all over the map. And that's what's disappointing, because I thought, okay, he's done almost every genre you can imagine. This is his first crack at horror. Let's see what Soderbergh can do with a horror film. And it's not a horror movie. Just because you have a ghost in your movie does not make it horror.
Yeah, Patrick Swayze taught us that when they made the fucking movie Ghost. Again, 50 times more interesting than this fucking movie.
I actually thought Solaris was a way better haunted house movie.
Solaris is way better than this, but it's also just copying an absolute classic Tarkovsky movie that was just shitty and not good. And again, I think that's the thing. I've never loved Soderbergh as much as everyone else because, again, when the movies where like the coolness thing isn't carrying it for me, I usually find nothing. Like Tarantino's like that for me too. If I don't have the thing to latch onto, I'm a cool guy movies just don't really do it for me all the time. But I've always admired his like approach, his methods, his creed, right? Like I love him as an artist, even if I don't always love his movies the most. Yeah. This is the one where I was like, you cannot tell me this was not just a job. And there's nothing I hate more in movies than when you can tell they're just jobs.
But that's the thing. It wasn't
no fucking way that anyone gave a shit about this movie.
No, they had to. It wasn't just a job. It was totally independently produced.
Right, it wasn't by him. So it is a job because he now owns this and knows he can cash in right quick. And it'll get viewers because the trailer's like an original horror. It'll have your jaw. That's a line in the trailer. It will have your jaw on the floor. Reinvents the haunted house genre. Go back and watch the trailer. Pause the show right now. Put that trailer on. Tell me what of those things were in this movie and why did I not see them?
It does seem overly arrogant by the filmmakers and the studio because Neon had their big hit with Long Legs, which I feel like was overly marketed. It did not deliver what it was selling, but at least it came close.
It was still an awesome experience. It was a shaggy dog.
Sure.
But that's going to be a movie people watch for decades.
I think Neon...
This movie will disappear.
Neon had to know. Of course they knew that they did not have a horror film, yet they still chose to market it as such. And
that you can't blame Soderbergh for that.
But it's not like the studio
was in on that.
It's not like the studio didn't know what they were buying. It's not like they were involved in the development. They bought it after the film was already financed, filmed, edited, completed. I mean, it premiered at Sundance, then they bought it.
Sometimes you make a cheap one like this that you know has all of the markers of a movie that'll just make some money because you need wins to make the other shit that is not going to make money. That's exactly what this had to be. There's in no universe do I believe Soderbergh actually put any heart and like mind fully behind this. I don't believe the cast, the writers, anyone really gave a shit. It feels like everyone's like, how do we do this really cool camera gimmick?
Pretty much.
And outside of that, I'm just not convinced anyone cared. And again, I hate doing this because we were excited for this movie the most this month.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Right? That's what I would say. What's your review of this movie? It's like when John Oliver's always like, cool. Like, it's a novel thing. I really like Chris Sullivan in it. I really liked Lucy Liu in it. It looked great. I would never watch this movie again.
Let's end on a high note. And it's that very last scene. I mean, we touched on it already, but if you were to pick one messed up moment, that's the only one that I can go for.
The most messed up moment in the Presence.
Yes. To me, it's that last scene. It's that very last scene where we know it's the brother. The brother's falling out the window with the serial killer kid, and they're moving out of the house. One thing that we really didn't mention is Lucy Liu's character loves the son more than the daughter.
Way more than the daughter. Like, specifically gets drunk and tells him as much. I like you more than yourself.
Right.
Like, she's cool, but like I've never been this close to a person.
And it's really hard.
It's like it's like, is she putting the moves on her own son?
Oh yeah, that scene where she was holding his hand, and
it's a lot.
Yeah, it was very bizarre.
I love my mom dearly. Would kill for my mom. Me and my mom have never done that.
Yeah. So, and she's set up as an unsympathetic character throughout. So when she's grieving the death of her son at the end, I think it's a testament to. I really don't know what did it. It was just Lucy Liu. It's a testament to her talent that this worked so well for me, in that I actually was sad that she lost this kid when it's exactly what she deserved. That she does, in a very tragic way. That
she wasn't fentanyl in kids. No parent deserves this.
Of course, but it was so. They kept laid it on so thick that this is your prized possession, and you're a bad person. So what you end up, deserving in a tragic sense is for that to be taken away, and that's what happens. So when she.
And then the movie ends, and she's just going to go to jail, it sounds like. So it's
it sounds like
really,
we never
they're not moving out of the house. They're fucking taking her to county, right? They're not selling their house.
Did they ever hint really at what it was that she
And then the husband is just like, yeah, you treat me so nice. Okay, I'll be a co-conspirator. I was like, that's a brave choice. I don't get. No, if again, as far as the most messed up moment of the movie, there is something inherently devastating about watching a woman stand in this empty monument to what was going to be the rest of their perfect life, and walking up to the mirror that the psychic lady touched, the one she dismissed and didn't take any credence of, didn't listen to her, threw her out, who maybe could have given her some clue that would have helped them. And then she sees that ridiculous MySpace profile picture of her son. And even as stupid as that is, her breaking down and crying and just being held by her family, even as uninvolved as I felt this whole movie, as a parent myself, I was fucking devastated. Almost moved to tears in a movie that I couldn't have cared less about, because it's such a reaction. You can't not at least sympathize with that moment.
It was so crazy. It was the first time in the whole movie that I felt anything right at the end. And it
Lucy Liu crushed.
It was nerve-rattling. I mean, I felt my whole body tingle when the music cuts off, and she just lets out this shriek, this wail, and because she sees her son in the mirror. And my baby, and she's reaching out toward the mirror, and they have to come and drag her away. Yeah. My God, man, it's
almost one of those moments you're like, man, if they would have started the movie there.
Yeah.
That felt like that's what this movie
if they would have done
so
anything
much more of.
If they would
something.
If they would have even set up these characters to make that even more earned, make you feel for their pain even more. I mean, what would have that been then? So to me,
there were no
that was impressive.
Obstacles, no oppression. It was kind of one of those like, yeah, it's just cool for rich people, huh? Even with a fucking ghost in your house, it's just okay. Yeah, man, I hate that it's another new movie that we're kind of shitting on, but I don't think this is a movie that meant to appease an audience. This felt like a masturbatory exercise that's just clicking the boxes to try to have a mini win on the scoreboard.
It was low stakes.
If a movie doesn't care about the art it's making, and I feel that in any way in my heart, and that could be a lie, that's what I felt watching it. It felt empty and unengaged, like unexamined is the word I would use, right? Mm-hmm. I don't feel bad saying that it's just not worth it. Like, it's just not worth. There are movies that are way less streamlined and well made that at least want to tell you something.
He did the same thing with Unsane. That whole gimmick was shot on the iPhone. Guess what? This is a low stakes movie. We're going to do it for $1 million or, whatever low budget is in Hollywood parlance. We'd love to have $1 million to do any of our stuff.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
But no one's going to like get fired over this movie. That's for sure. No. But at least with something like Unsane, it had the pulpy aspect to it. It was doing
that one
the
had
genre
a lifeblood that felt like something. Maybe not like an achievement, but it felt like it was going for something. This reminded me a lot of another movie that I fucking hated that like cinephiles really took to heart. Do you remember A Ghost Story from 2017?
I never saw it. I just never could bring myself to.
If you didn't like this, you will hate that movie. It was Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara, and essentially it's a guy in a sheet just standing there through decades of tragedy. Rooney Mara eats a pie for like 5 minutes straight, and people are like, that's cinema. And I was like, no, brother, that's me at Golden Corral. That's not cinema.
That's all this cinephiles who listed Jean Dielman as the number one movie of all time. Come on.
Yeah, really? Get the fuck out of here. That movie fucking sucks, and I did like Presence more than A Ghost Story. I'll say that. Like that, the Ghost Story is so fucking pretentious, and it
David
makes
Lowery
it so fucking cool. Yeah, that movie, dude. Even I remember there was some fucking thing where he's like, it's a metaphysical fucking, and I was like, you fucking stupid asshole. I was like, you know what it is? A waste of my goddamn life. This is the thing. This podcast is meant to celebrate movies. The problem is sometimes if we're doing brand new ones, we're just talking about shit we haven't seen yet, and some of it's not going to be great, and it's fucking January, so this will happen. But you know what? I would bet everything that next week, when we talk about Companion, we're going to have a great January horror movie to gush over. The early reviews are coming in. My friends at Slash Film already reviewed it. Loved it. Said it's the first great movie of the year. And I couldn't be more excited. I'm sorry that we didn't like this. I'm sorry that we didn't like Wolfman, or at least Heath did. He's doing his part. I didn't like Wolfman. I swear to God, I like movies. I will like a movie on this podcast.
I don't know, man.
It's coming. It's going to happen. There are too many good horror movies every year for like 5 years in a row.
No, we're right in the
we're in the January dumping grounds. It's fine. This movie, I think Wolfman will do better than this, honestly. I think when Wolfman finds general audiences, there will be people that at least find that to be a thrilling enough ride. This one, I truly think, is going to be gone. I think definitely. You will never fucking hear about this movie again in like
just go through Soderbergh's IMDb and look. I love a lot of these movies, but
it is a real fucking wasteland at times. But again, I love Soderbergh. Better luck next time, brother. That's it for the pod. We'll see you Wednesday for a deep dive on an old classic. See, we love every Wednesday movie. And a Filmmaker Friday. We are very excited for our February curation. Be Still My Heart, right? A month of amour. Romance that the fires of passion burn beyond even death, as you'll learn. Which this movie could have used more of as well. So we'll see you there. Make sure you go to the Messed Up Movies Podcast Patreon. Tons of cool exclusive stuff. We're starting our Black Mirror miniseries, exclusive movies voting, community building over there. We would love to have you. Make sure you go to misfitparade.com. We're recording this the day before we start the next segment of our film, Mr. Cream Jeans Hidey Hole, so you can keep track of the production over there. We're on all the socials, Misfit Parade on YouTube. If you could do that for us, guys, that would mean the world to us. 5-star ratings and reviews, all of these little things help us build this thing out, and we appreciate your help.
Join the parade.
Join the parade.